Good morning, everyone. My name is Elisabeth GOSSELIN MALO. I am an international security and military expert. This morning, I have the pleasure to be joined by Rear Admiral MALLARD, who is the commander of the French Carrier Strike Group. And we will be focusing this panel on discussing around some themes regarding challenges and opportunities for the Carrier Strike Group in naval warfare. So welcome.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Good morning.
Good morning. So why don't you begin by maybe briefly presenting us what the strike group is, its role and purpose?
Sure. I have the honor to command the French Carrier Strike Group that is mainly built around its carrier, the Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle with air wing, roughly 20 to 30 Rafale Admiral fighters, and completed by 2 E-2Cs for early warnings and a couple of helicopters for logistic or anti-surface warfare. But the carrier cannot sail alone. She has to be escorted, either for offensive or defensive reason. That's why we have mostly 3 escort ships through DDGs, mostly dedicated to either anti-submarines or anti-air warfare. Since logistics is also the most important part of a task force, we're sailing with a supply ship, AOR. We have the chance to integrate in the French Carrier Strike Group the new BRF Jacques Chevalier that will be commissioned very soon. And this is a real game changer in order to have more fuel, more ammos, more spare parts, more goods in order to last longer at sea. We have also inside the task force a submarine, nuclear submarine that mostly is deployed ahead of the medium line of advance, meaning that it will enlight what's going on and even see what threat we can be faced off. And last but not least, we have maritime patrol aircraft that are following the Carrier Strike Group deployments from the shore, using their abilities to monitor the surface pictures, but also the submarine warfare in order to be more efficient in the deployment and in the missions. That's basically what a Carrier Strike Group is.
And if we were to do a deeper dive into some of the main capabilities that a Carrier Strike Group provides to a force, what would you say those main ones are?
Well, maybe we'll use the Swiss knife comparison. It's a very large and very versatile task force that can be used for diplomacy, that can be used for reconnaissance up to the nuclear deterrence. So we have a very wide range of effects to monitor, giving the political leaderships a set of tools in order to apply whatever political or strategic message needs to be sent. Very versatile. Every domain, that is air, surface, subsurface, of course, but also cyber domain, electromagnetic warfare, and also, of course, using the possibility to touch either decision makers or populations by just sending the aircraft carrier and showing the flag.
The French Carrier Strike Group has, in the last year, ramped up operations in a number of different regions. Some of them with widely different operational environments. Here I'm thinking maybe of the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and soon as well the Pacific for the first time in a really long time. What would you say were some of the common challenges or threats that you faced in these different areas, and how did you maybe adapt your strategies accordingly?
As you know, the general world situation and the threat we have to face is a very evolving situation. So first deployment part will be, of course, Mediterranean Sea, where the supply road of Russian assets, but also asymmetric set from terrorist groups has to be faced off. So the deployment of a Carrier Strike Group inside the Med is basically getting the European theater and knowing its deeply. So last year, during Aquila missions, we were under NATO operational control, deploying several sets, either on the maritime part, but also on the air part, within the European theater. And it was a very big challenge to know the theater, integrate the NATO chain of command, and also make the difference from the sea. That is basically what a carrier strike group can do. You're talking about the East Med, where the threat is very high, and I think it is the war zone that is the most intense at these times. And the carrier strike group, for now, is not deployed over there because we don't have mission from our point of view. The Red Sea, of course, is a place to be. We have a permanent presence of a French frigate over there and fairly effective fire actions that have been done. To be deployed, the carrier strike group will go to the Red Sea through the high threat area, and I think we have a very effective assets with the PAM system, the Aster missiles, but also the different guns or even electronic warfare jammers that will be effective against this threat. Of course, we have to assess the threat, and one of the most important capacities, effect of a ship is that it moves, and it moves pretty fast. In the Indian Ocean, we have presence of mainly Allied, but when you go up to the north, there is competitors through UAVs, USVs that have to be taken into account. So awareness and readiness will be the most important challenge. Going eastward on the Indonesian islands, there is a cooperation issue, mostly low level of threats compared to what's inside the Philippine Sea, where there are at least between 10 and 20 Chinese submarines sailing along, either inside the South China Sea or the Phil Sea. So that will be definitely sailing on the east side of the Philippines, facing anti-submarine threats. That will be the most important part.
A theme that this week has been at the center of many interviews we've had on the TV panel has been the sort of unprecedented level of data that military forces around the world are faced with today, and sort of the importance that comes with having the capability to verify, simplify, and diffuse that information faster, in some cases, than human beings can. How does the Carrier Strike Group ensure this, and how does it deal with data more broadly?
Well, first of all, you have to realize that because of its size, the Carrier Strike Group is a unique laboratory in order to integrate cutting-edge technology. The force of a big organization like the CSG is to be able to adapt, whereas a smaller platform, you just have to do what you get. So, this said, when you have at least 7 to 10 ships and aircraft gathering data, either from the electronic magnetic warfare or ISR or even under warfare, there's a fairly huge amount of data to collect. That's why the French Navy has developed data hubs. It was first tested on a single ship that was a fairly interesting success, and we will be deploying several of those inside the Carrier Strike Group for the next mission, sailing off at the end of the year. The challenge is to share, to interpret, to analyze, in order to use these data as a raw material, not through combat system that is mostly definitely used. The objective, to share between 2 ships, 2 data hubs, in order to enhance the ability to decide, take some statement ships, and get a broader view of the theater. And it is for the benefits of everybody. The operator behind his sensor, in order to know what will be the pattern, what you can expect, and maybe predict through the analyzings of the pattern of life. Of course, the commanding officers, but also the Carrier Strike Group commander, in order to have a wider extent of analyze within in a real time using all the data and the memory. So for decision making, there will be definitely an add-on that will help us. We have one issue though, because inside the French Navy, we don't have always the competence to use data. Data is, I'd say, a work of art. You have to know the material, you have to know how to use it. And that's why for the next mission, that will be leaving at the end of the year, we will integrate some data scientists, data analysts coming from industrial that we are working with. Most of them are here inside this forum, and getting under a reserve contract. There will be for a short period of time military reservists using their competence the closest way to the operators and the need. So we expect through these experimentations to enhance the knowledge of using this big amount of data and develop some applications that will be used inside the whole French Navy, changing completely the way we are thinking about using the data. First of all, it was through the combat system that we were focusing on either an air contact or a submarine contact. Then we will continue this, but using all the data gathered together, we can give a second layer of analysis. So those applications, once they're really fit to operations, and that's the point of using those experts inside an operational deployment, we will use them as like a standard inside the Navy.
You touched a little bit on some of the international cooperation aspect that is linked to the role of the French Carrier Strike Group. It often participates in different high-intensity exercises and missions with other allied countries, as it was the case recently in Mare Aperto 2024 with the Italian Navy. What sort of feedback do you, in your role, take away from these kinds of events? And how do they reinforce your force as a battle group, if you will?
So Mare Aperto 24 was a unique occasion for the French Navy to demonstrate the Polaris concept that we've been working on for the last 3 years. Polaris is basically changing the way we see training. There is, of course, individual action that needs to be done. The operator, for a sensor, whatever, sonar or radar, has to see an aircraft or submarines and using the contact in order to make sure that he knows the drill. But having those serialized, we were missing the opportunity for the high-hand training of changing the way we've seen war at sea, being opposed to another force that will not do as scheduled on the program. So Polaris is basically getting two symmetric forces, one of each side, each one of them having a dedicated missions, and the missions of each one's being to either slow or impeach the other one. So it's a confrontation of will, like real warriors, and it's closer, in our opinions, to what we can expect in the next couple of years concerning war at sea. So we developed that during 2 editions inside the French forces, and we have agreed with the Italian Navy to experiment this concept with them. It was a very, very interesting challenge. We had at least 50 combat units deployed in the West Mediterranean, sharing the same tactical situations and the same positions. One of the points that differ a little bit with the previous edition of Mare Aperto is that when you're hit, you cannot revive. When you have fired all your weapons, you have to reload, meaning that you have to go on a port, and you have to stay across the pier and not reload really, but take the time to reload. So it gives I'd say a more realistic training conditions. The Italian Navy is a very, very efficient one with new ships, good radars, good sensors, submarines, very discreet, and being opposed to these forces with the French Carrier Strike Group was a very challenging experience. We had 7 days of very high intensity training, Carrier Strike Group against Carrier Strike Group, and I think the general lessons learned from both sides were very positive. And just to mention it, because the CAVOR that participated to Maria Aperto last year was deployed in the Indo-Pacific regions last summer, and she just came back, and the commanding of the Italian Carrier Strike Groups exchanged with me and told me frankly that the occasion to train with the Polaris Maria Aperto 24 was a very, very interesting way of raising up the stakes and being ready to be deployed in the so dense regions like the Indo-Pacific is.
And if we were to broaden that a little bit, this year obviously will mark 3 years since the launch of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. If we were to sort of focus more on international cooperation and the opportunities that gives the French Carrier Strike Group, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, first of all, having a major and large forces with so much effect to produce always interest every navies in order to have such a challenging training opportunities or deployment opportunities. So for the last 15 years, the different deployments of the French Carrier Strike Groups involved at least 30 different nations integrating their frigates, assets, AOR inside the forces, and that's very interesting, and that's challenging for both sides. For the staff of the Carrier Strike Group, you have to create the momentum, the environment, in order for a Greek, Italian, American, British, but also Egyptians, Indian, Japanese Navy to get inside the group, understand the meanings, and be as efficient as a French asset. So it's very challenging. You have to give clear orders. You have to be specific. You have to ramp up slowly the training, and we're working on that. And I think this is one of the mark of the French Carrier Strike Group, to be a welcome, friendly welcome of all the assets we integrate. On the other side, being inside the different nations' high-end means raise up the expectations for the ship. I have the example of an Italian frigate last year that was integrated inside Aquila, that at the end says, well, I didn't learn any specific tactics. I just learned how to do it in such a compressed time and space environments, and that's the point of it, is getting the grammar to be just a fluent language of exchange. But to continue on this, NATO is a formidable and very powerful integration systems. Portuguese ships, Spanish ships, British ships, they come inside the French Carrier Strike Group, and we have all the process. That's the point about interoperability. It started by technical process, it's starting by exchange, but it's building up to mutual knowledge and confidence. We're exchanging mutual confidence, and that's the point of it. We know that's the foreigner escort ship will be able to defend us, and we have confidence of its powerful skills. It's building up the interoperability of it. When you're leaving the NATO area, when you're working with other countries, you have to start to the basics. And basically, the general purpose of our deployment, either in the Indian Ocean or in the Indo-Pacific area, is to raise up the expectations in order to make sure that we're not starting just talking to each other on the radio, and that we could conduct operations all together. And that's one of the strengths of most modern Navy is to be able to exchange data, to exchange tactical situations, and to raise up to real operations altogether.
That was a nice transition to my next question. How would you say that you balance with being transparent about your operations and the data that you have access to with your allies, while also having to keep a certain level of confidentiality from your opponents to not be revealing, or for them not to be able to predict your next move? Sorry.
That's definitely a real challenge, because on one side you want to share. So sharing means opening bridges, getting ways of exchanging informations, and sharing makes you very powerful. But on the other hand, you want to protect also, and you don't want to have the opponent to understand what your intentions are, because it will give him the opportunity to have an advantage on you. Until now, most of the communications infrastructure were segregated. So we had specific secret level network where we were exchanging either data or tactical situations through data link. That's, in my opinion, the early 21st century ways of protecting things. With getting the data management, data analyze, data raw materials, we have to think about a different way maybe of sharing information, protecting the data itself. That's all about the data-centric security issue, being able to send a pack to several different allies, but only specific ones available and reachable for specific allies, meaning that you have, let's say, 10 datas to work to 5 different nations. One nation will have the whole 10 datas, but the other 4 will only have 8, because the 2 you want to protect won't be able to be reached. So we're working on that. For now, what we are developing and discovering for data will be on a specific and segregated network, because this is the way we have infrastructure. But every time we are building up an applications and sharing informations, we're thinking about the data-centric way of exchanging. And one of the main challenge of the experimentation about data that we will conduct during the next missions will be to exchange with the allied part of our data. That's one of the goals of interoperability, mostly with the US Navy, British Navy, and Australian Navy.
You touched on earlier about your next mission that you're about to embark on, which will be in the Indo-Pacific. Would you want to give a little bit more detail about what that will entail, what you're looking forward to?
Yeah, but it's been quite a few years that the French is deployed high-hand asset in the area. About 3 years ago, we had the FREM Lorraine raising up to Japan and sailing inside the South China Sea. We had last summer the Bretagne, which is also a frigate multi-mission that was deployed up to Hawaii, participating to RIMPAC and several other high-hand exercise. And the general intention is to continue this momentum in order to show the interest of France to this particular part of the world, where at least 40% of the world GDP will transit in the next decade. So the general plan is to send the French Carrier Strike Group up to the Pacific Ocean in order to first participate to all the operations that are ongoing inside the Med or the Red Sea. Second, cooperates with the Indian Navy, that is a major Indian Ocean actor and that is raising up its capacity to build up a carrier strike group. They will have at least 3 carriers, and as you know, we may have a similar aircraft to work with. And then going up to the Indian Ocean islands in order to build up the awareness on security, maritime security, leading a multinational force with all the regional partners and cooperating at the same times on the 3 different straits of the Indonesian islands. And then raising up to the field sea in order to cooperate with the major navy that are deployed over there. I'm saying about the US Navy, the Australian Navy, and the Japanese Navy. And then we'll be back on the other way.
Yesterday, in one of my exchanges with the Chief of Staff of the French Navy, we sort of went over the role that he saw emerging technologies like AI, how they would shape the future of naval operations from a naval perspective. In your opinion, when it comes to the future of the French Carrier Strike Group and the missions that you will embark on, how might some of this emerging tech shape or change the way that you operate?
Well, in my opinion, we are at the same turning point than in the early 20th century. The navies were with aviations coming and getting the 3rd dimensions warfighting arena. Informations, as everybody knows, informations is now a sort of domain where you can intercept each other, fight each other through different truths, different way of seeing things, and of course getting a effect on the public opinion or other. But showing or hiding information is also the issue. At sea, the only questions you ask every moment as a task force commander is who is where and what are their intentions, because we are on a moving domains. There's civilian traffics all around. There are competitors and different ways. There are allies, of course, you can share information with. So the new data that you're talking about will enhance this priority of information. So when you're thinking about quantic technologies, that maybe in a couple of years, no code, no crypto will be resisting to this kind of power of calcul. So we have to think about how we will protect our information. That the issue about data centrics is maybe so many data isolated will be enough to protect our information to a competitor. Talking about the artificial intelligence, it will definitely enhance the awareness of the sensors. For now, the information is gathered by an operator, and the operator is conducting the actions with these informations. If you imagine that only differences, only possibilities are sent to the operators, you see a very, very wider range of way of evolving inside the centric. There is, though, one thing that will never change, in that when you're at sea and you're preparing to combat, you have to be ready to concentrate your firepower and defend all your platforms. So that there is no AI that will give you these protections against the fire of an enemy. What AI can give you would be basically the challenge of what could be happening with the competitor, to get you more ready and not surprised. That's in my opinion what new tech can get on the naval warfare.
And you, who have been doing this for quite some time and have had a lot of experience ahead of this, how would you say international cooperation has changed over the years, and how has the number of data you have access to today maybe enhance the operations that the French Carrier Strike Group carries on?
Well, thanks to remind me that I started my career with no computers on board, but this is the way it is. I mean, the older you get, the wiser maybe. I think we have, through the digital transformations, we have access to more and more information. So one major cooperations and interoperability evolutions was the data links. So we started basically by exchanging position and heading and speed. That was the first data links, and it evaluated up to what is now the exchange, and that is the start of a data exchange. But the data link, tactical data link, now gives you the opportunity to know how many fuel there is on board the Rafale, how many Aster it has still inside the air defense cruiser. So it enhances a lot the way you can share information and, of course, the effectiveness of a task force. Another point is that we've been through the, I'd say, the sort of sleeping cycle of the late 90s and the early 2000s, where no competitor were identified, and we were mostly fighting against asymmetric threats. With the last 3 to 5 years, everybody realized that the threat we have to face, the threat we have to prepare to be ready against, is a symmetrical one, with missiles, with capacities that are very, very close to our. So we are now cooperating as a sort of equal level with the threats, being a lot more humble and thinking more efficiency that we were used to, sort of confidence of being the best one, not challenged. Now we are challenged.
In what way would you say you're the most challenged today, compared to maybe earlier years, or in your experience before?
Oh, that's a very good question, because it's in basically every ways. For now, the common spaces, either cybernetic, maritimes, but also space, are basically an arena where the challenge is permanent. You see every day in the world, over the sea, inside the cyberspace or inside the airspace, that some powerful competitors are just trying to gain and trying to appropriate themselves a piece of this common airspace. As a seaman, we're very, very attached to the freedom of navigations, to the fact that high seas belongs to everybody, and the fact that between seamen we have to be a sort of solidarity, because living at sea is living not in a natural domain where the man is used to. So that's the way we are building up the culture of our Navy, and we see that more and more fishing vessels, people that are just saying that now it is my place to interdict the freedom of the traffic. You see in the Red Sea, for instance, or in the South China Sea, and this is a big challenge for us. We're not anymore free of our movements. We have to cope with the I'd say intentions of most of some people that want just to change the rule-based order that was developed for the last in the end of the 20th century. So either we get an agreement, or either we will be stepped on our toes.
And to sort of wrap it up, I know that we spoke earlier on about the Indo-Pacific mission that awaits you. Beyond that, what would be your next focus over the next few months, and your ambitions or targets with the French Carrier Strike Group?
Well, the missions will last long. We'll get in a very, very farther area. So that's, to be frank, my main concern at the present time. Working a lot with either the partners or the leadership in order to square up the condition of the deployments and to be sure that we are ready. Just an example, we will be so far from our basis that logistic will be just a game changer. It's even a showstopper. So building up the logistic maneuvers of this deployment is a challenge of itself. But to get a little bit further, we talked about the experimentations on the data. I think we'll be definitely changing the way we are using our combat system. the, the present combat systems are filtering all the information in order to get the weapon system the information they need, and I think in the next decade we'll change a little bit the way we're seeing things, sort of using the data amount to integrate the information we need just for the weapon system we need, and having a very versatile way of orienting the way we're using information. And of course, with the ability to share it, the ship will not be alone within the task force. It would be able to use the information and the data gathered from its sister ships 100 miles away in order to get its own situational awareness inside inside a contested environment. So that's, in my opinion, a fairly wide challenge, because we've never been there for now, and there is a lot of civilian firms that have that are ahead of us on that. So we need to just catch up the late we have.
Is there any other experiences that you're looking forward to acquiring with that deployment? Anything new that you think it might bring you?
So we talked about logistics,
yeah.
and this is a lot of new things. There's interoperability with the Pacific Fleet. So we know all our NATO allies, and we have a fairly robust cooperations history with them. We've been deployed in the Indian Ocean for last 2 decades, conducting operations very closely with our allies. So we brought up this cooperation and interoperability with the Indian Ocean's nations. And the goal of our next mission, the Clemenceau 25 missions, will be to raise up this level of interoperability with the Pacific Fleet. So I'm talking about Canadian Navy, I'm talking about Australian Navy, US Navy, of course, but also Japanese, Philippines, Indonesian, Singapore, Malaysian, whatever. There's a lot of actors, and it's a fairly important challenge to raise up the stakes and catch up with the way they're doing things. It's a regional way, and to be able to integrate close confidence, to be able one day to conduct real operations with them. That's basically what I'm working on, and it will be a fairly long process. So we're planning right now. We have very good contact to share intentions. We will do the real things over there, which I'm very eager to go with. And then after that, we'll go through the lessons learned and maybe change some of our processes, some of our standards, some of our weapon system and sensors, in order to always follow up what will be the next threat.
Is that something that takes some time, you would say, after you come back from one of these types of deployments and you go into the sort of lessons learned, like you said? Are we talking a matter of months, of years to change and adapt your strategies, or how does that work?
I wish it would be days or weeks. It's mostly months and years. The thing is, we have very complex weapon system, very, very complex. When you think about a Rafale, the carrier strike groups has a very, very complex different system. So making them evaluated is not as easy as an iPhone. And we know sometimes we would like to be as agile as Apple or Google is, but we're not able to do that. Another thing to consider is that the biggest challenge and the big strengths of all our units is the men and women that are working together and giving their best in order to use their weapons. And it takes a long time to form an officer of the watch, commanding officers, but also an operator of radar. So you cannot change every 2 weeks with a new version all your the thing to work on. So on one hand, we need to be as close to the best tech availability. On the other hand, we have to have people that know how to use it. And that's the biggest challenge of all the navies, is to form the new operator of a new sensor that will completely change the way of doing war at sea. But not everybody is a PhD in tech or CIS. And so we're building up the way we are teaching those competences, and that's something that takes time. You cannot make a mistakes on that. If you're forming somebody that is not adapted to the new sensors that will be developed, so that it's a very long process, unfortunately. On the other hand, it's still working what we are using. It's not as effective as it is, and we're just adapting the way we are using our weapon system to the evolutions, and that's the way seamen are. We adapt to the winds, the seas, the temperature conditions, whatever you are facing with, and being an adaptive structure is a strength.
I think that is going to conclude our panel. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and especially I'd like to thank Rear Admiral for being here this morning, this early. And I wish you a great rest of the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Have a good day.